Hello, second and third grade. I miss you guys so much. This is Mr. MacIntire, and since I will not be seeing you at school, I decided that the best way that I will be able to communicate with you will be through YouTube. So, what I would like to do right now is begin reading a book for all of you. This is a well-known book. It's written by E.B. White, and the book is titled Stuart Little. I hope you guys enjoy and follow along. I'll be asking questions throughout. So the first chapter is titled In the Drain. When Mrs. Frederick C. Little's second son arrived, everybody noticed that he was not much bigger than a mouse. The truth of the matter was, the baby looked very much like a mouse in every way. He was only 2 inches high, and he had a mouse's sharp nose, a mouse's tail, a mouse's whiskers, and the pleasant, shy manner of a mouse. Before he was many days old, he not only started looking like a mouse, but he started acting like one too, wearing a gray hat and carrying a small cane. Mr. and Mrs. Little named him Stuart, and Mr. Little made him a tiny bed out of 4 clothespins and a cigarette. It's a pretty small box for him for a bed. Unlike most babies, Stuart could walk as soon as he was born. When he was a week old, he could climb lamps by shining up the cord. Mrs. Little saw right away that the infant clothes she had provided were unsuitable, and she set to work and made him a fine little blue worsted suit with patch pockets in which he could keep his handkerchief, his money, and his keys. Every morning before Stuart dressed, Mrs. Little went into his room and weighed him about a small scale which was really meant for weighing letters. At birth, Stuart could have been sent by first-class mail for 3 cents, but his parents preferred to keep him rather than send him away. So students, question. How many pounds do you think Stuart Little weighs? He's about 2 inches tall, which is, I guess, about that tall. So let's use some math. How many pounds do you think he weighs? A tiny little mouse. Just something to think about. And when, at the age of a month, he had gained only 1/3 of an ounce, his mother was so worried she sent him to the doctor. The doctor was delighted with Stuart and said that it was very unusual for an American family to have a mouse. He took Stuart's temperature and found that it was 98.6 degrees, which is normal for a mouse and also normal for us. He also examined Stuart's chest and heart and looked into his ear solemnly with a flashlight. Not every doctor can look into a mouse's ear without laughing. Everything seemed to be all right, and Mrs. Little was pleased to get such a good report. "Feed him up," said the doctor cheerfully as he left. The home of the Little family was a pleasant place near a park in New York City. In the mornings the sun streamed in through the east windows, and all the Littles were up early as a general rule. Stuart was a great help to his parents and to his older brother George because of his small size, and because he could do things that a mouse can do and was agreeable about doing them. One day, when Mrs. Little was washing out the bathtub after Mr. Little had taken a bath, she lost a ring off her finger and was horrified to discover that he had fallen down the drain. Now question, have you ever lost anything before? I can only imagine how Mr. Little must feel knowing that Mrs. Little's ring might be lost. That's probably something important to them. So, just something to think about there. Definitely not good for Stuart, I would say. "What had I better do?" she cried, trying to keep the tears back. She must really be upset. "If I were you," said George, "I should bend a hairpin in the shape of a fishhook and tie it onto a piece of string and try to fish the ring out with it." So Mrs. Little found a little piece of string and a hairpin, and for about half an hour she fished down for the ring. But it was dark down the drain, and the hook always seemed to catch on something before she could get down to where the ring was. Now question, it doesn't sound like she's going to be able to get to the ring. Who do you think might be able to? What luck? Inquired Mr. Little, coming into the bathroom. No luck at all, said Mrs. Little. The ring is so far down I can't fish it up. Why don't we send, you guessed it, Stuart, down after it, suggested Mr. Little. How about it, Stuart? Would you like to try? Yes, I would, Stuart replied, but I think I'd better get into my old pants. I imagine it's wet down there. It's all of that, said George, who was a trifle annoyed that his hook idea hadn't worked. Trifle also means just a little bit, a little annoyed. So he was a little perturbed, which also means annoyed. Big word. So Stuart slipped into his old pants and prepared to go down the drain after the ring. He decided to carry the string along with him, leaving one end in charge of his father. When I jerk 3 times on the string, pull me up, he said. And while Mr. Little knelt in the tub, Stuart slid easily down the drain and was lost in view. In a minute or so, there came 3 quick jerks on the string, and Mr. Little carefully hauled it up. There at the end was Stuart, with the ring safely around his neck. Oh, my brave little son, said Mrs. Little proudly as she kissed Stuart and thanked him. How was it down there? Asked Mr. Little, who was always curious to know about places he had never been to. It was all right, said Stuart, but the truth was the drain had made him very slimy and necessary for him to take a bath and sprinkle himself with a bit of his mother's violet water before he felt like himself again. Everybody in the family thought he had been awfully good about the whole thing. So question, guys, have you ever been in a situation before where you might have lost something, but you were in a situation where it seemed like nobody could find it except you magically appeared with whatever it was that lost? A few weeks ago I was at recess and one of the students told me that they lost their necklace. So I stayed after for a few minutes once everybody headed back to the cafeteria, and I somehow found it, this tiny little necklace. So guys, that was the end of chapter 1. I really hope you've enjoyed reading with me so far. I miss you guys a lot. I really hope you're doing well. Make sure to wash your hands. Make sure that you're being safe, and spend lots of time with your family. This is a great opportunity to really get to spend some time together. So I miss you guys a lot. I hope you're doing well. And next week I will be reading chapter 2. All right, guys. Have a great day. Have a great week.